My father especially was not happy when I came to mainland China because I was military 7 years, he was military 18 years, and 11 years of it was fighting in Asia, in the Korean War, Vietnam War. He's not too happy about that. But as soon as I got to China, and I saw China was very different than I expected, I started writing letters home. I've been doing it now for 26 years, writing a newsletter, sort of humorous letter home called Off the Wall, Life in China, and just explain what it's like here. And say, yeah, it is true. China has a lot of problems, but any country this big, this many people, and so poor, it's going to have a lot of problems, but it's also got a lot of good.
Bill Brown used to serve in the U.S. Air Force in Taiwan from 1976 to 1978. Several years later, he and his family moved to Fujian.
And I made a waterfall.
Oh, you make this?
Yeah, and it's stone, so I couldn't go very deep. I spent maybe a week with a pick and a hammer trying to dig it out. So finally I made a wall, and yeah, and put fish in here. Used to be big fish, but in '99 they had the big typhoon, the worst one in like 40 years, and it killed them all. And so, I was very critical of China, like my father and like others. But as I learned more about China and began to see what Chinese people were like, I thought we really should be helping China, not fighting it, and so it was really encouraging to me as my father. The last time I saw my father, that's what he told me. And in '81 in California, I met my wife. She's born and raised in Taiwan. She's blonde hair, blue-eyed American, but born and raised in Taiwan because her parents taught 30 years there. I love to tell people my wife's made in Taiwan. They usually laugh and say, don't laugh, good quality. No warranty, but good quality. And so we went back to Taiwan to get married, actually. And when I met her, the reason we started talking to each other was because we were both interested in mainland China. We both wanted to go to China, so we started talking about China. And I asked her out the day I met her, asked her out on a date, we talked about China, and we were together at least a little time every day until we married in Taiwan in December. So I wrote an article about it. It said, China, our matchmaker. Because if she hadn't been interested in China, I wouldn't have married her. And this is my little office. I have an office in the and these are all.
He also collected many old books about Quanzhou, which contain many precious photos.
This book is from 1907. This is the Confucian temple in Quanzhou, 100 years ago, over 100 years ago. It's really rare. Even Quanzhou government doesn't have it.
Entrance to the. 哦，就是那个清净寺那里。
Then later, though, I learned more about the history of Marco Polo and Columbus. That Columbus' goal was trying to find Quanzhou. So I often joke to my friends, I'm greater than Columbus because he never made it to Quanzhou, but I did. And 1,000 years ago, Quanzhou was the greatest port in the world, except for Alexandria, Egypt. And Marco Polo said for every one ship in the West, there were 100 ships in Quanzhou. Can you imagine that? So the more I read about that and the more I understood it, just the more I thought this is an amazing place. Well, Anxi tea, of course, that's famous. In fact, I joke with friends, if it wasn't for Anxi tea, there would be no United States. It's true. In fact, I told a group of Americans last week this. They were so surprised because the Boston Tea Party, that they were in Boston 200 years ago. They threw the tea into the ocean, and that started the war. Well, that Boston Tea Party, the tea was from Anxi, and the 3 ships from Xiamen. So I said, if there's no Anxi tea, no Xiamen ships, we have no war. And Americans speaking the funny English instead of standard American. But so Americans, when they think of tea, they think China think of tea. That's Anxi.
Bill loves Quanzhou. That's why he's went there so many times and did a lot of research in order to write the book, Discover Quanzhou.
Then in 2003, Quanzhou entered the LivCom Award, this international competition for livable city. In Chinese, it's a Guojihuayan Chengshi Tasai. But they really wanted me to help them, so I helped them. And then I spent weeks up there exploring all of Quanzhou, every corner of it, driving around and taking notes, taking pictures, interviewing people. I was so amazed. And in the end, Quanzhou not only won the gold, they got an extra gold for heritage preservation. And so it really gave me a good appreciation of Quanzhou. Actually, I wrote the book about Quanzhou because of Xi Jinping. He was governor at the time, and my wife and I went to Fuzhou, had a dinner with him, and he said, "You wrote about Xiamen, your 第二故乡." He said, "You should write about Quanzhou, your 第三故乡." I said, "Okay." So now I've written 10 books about Fujian, but he would never remember that. He won't remember me, but I remember that. But now I've written a lot about Fujian, so the last 2 books have been more about Fujian's history, because I find that even Fujian people don't even know how rich our heritage really is, especially young people. But I find out they're interested. Sometimes I go to like Chinese high school, and I speak to Chinese children about Fujian history, and they love it. So to me, it's very important that the other countries get to know China and Fujian. Well, actually, this tree is, originally, I had a shorter tree. I put a Christmas tree. We got the live tree for Christmas, and then after Christmas, I planted it here, and it got about that tall. Now it's taller than the whole building. So I watched the tree grow up.
Bill has 2 beautiful children. They grew up in China and love China very much.
They thought they were Chinese when they were young. I remember Matthew, my youngest son, said when he grew up he wanted to join the Jiefangzhen Liberation Army. I said, "I don't think they'll take you. You know, you're a foreigner." But so cute. They both went to the Chinese school at the very beginning, but it turned out to be too difficult for the pressure, only one child, so we ended up homeschooling and having Chinese tutors. But Matthew, the youngest son, he went the 3rd day of school. I asked him, I said, "Matthew, he's the only foreign child, right? Blonde hair, blue eyes, he's the only foreigner." But I said, "Why are you wearing the same clothes for 3 days?" He said, "That's the difference between mother and father. Mother said, 'Change your clothes.' Father, kind of dumb, 'Why are you wearing the same clothes?" He said, "I was afraid if I changed my clothes, they wouldn't recognize me." He really thought he was Chinese. Yeah, it's funny watching him grow up here. We were in the U.S. when he was 5, and the 3rd day we were in California, he said, "Dad, do they have KFC in America?" I said, "Yeah, that's American." The youngest one's in the U.S. still in college, but the first one went back to America, and he had friends there, but after a year and a half he said, "I don't like it here." So I said, "Well then, come home." So he didn't even finish college, he just came back to China to get a job here, and he married a girl from Xiamen. And my father passed away in 2004, but just 3 months before he passed away, I was in the U.S. with him. And I'm so happy because he said that he is so proud that I came to China and stayed here, because he's learned a lot from it, and he wishes maybe he had done things differently.
Bill and his family still live in Fujian and discover this beautiful province in so many ways.